It starts with the coup that happened in November 2017. We found ourselves under heavy sustained gunfire, and we had to make way and leave the country immediately. We left through Mozambique, lived in Kenya for a while, and came back to South Africa. This is the time when the army with Mnangagwa took over power, and then I came to live here. At the same time, in April of 2018, I flew back to Zimbabwe, and I said, I'm coming here to face charges, if there are any charges against me. I was brought to court, acquitted. After the elections, 23rd September, again 2018, I flew back when they said I was a wanted person. I flew into Zimbabwe, I went through the court process, and all the charges were quashed. This is the story so far.
But did you reach out to your fellow members of ZANU-PF to try and mend their relations?
We did. We did a hell lot of work, from calling them to even engaging some of the liberation movements. We went to the African National Congress, and a delegation was sent to engage with the ZANU-PF with regards to our position. As former comrades, we appealed to those institutions we felt could actually be understood, from a revolutionary point of view. But it appeared they were not interested at all. And this has been going on for a very long time. And we felt now, no, we can't continue like this.
Now you are contesting elections. What prompted you to take this decision?
It is clear that Zimbabwe is going in the wrong direction. And we have to restore our country. We have to look at the best interests of our country, come out of our slumber, and go into these elections. It is a very serious decision we've taken, because we realize without us attending and also making a contribution to our country's resolution of our crisis, we are going to continue down the precipice.
But you were part of the cabinet of former President Mugabe. You were together with the current president and the rest of the team that is in cabinet.
Yeah, but
you couldn't resolve the problems of Zimbabwe.
Look at when we were in cabinet. Civil servants, minimum, were getting about $500. Today they're getting $50. The state of the economy was a lot better than it is today. The freedoms of our people were even a lot better than they are today.
But how would people trust you when you are part of the system?
Well, but we're part of the system. I don't deny that. But we have seen exactly the ills in our system that must be corrected. We are saying we have been inside. It is also those people who have a better understanding of the inside who should be able to correct this system.
Now, looking at the current situation, there were fears that you are not going to make it to the ballot. Are you happy in relation to how those who are responsible to prepare for elections have conducted themselves, including the Electoral Commission?
I think the Electoral Commission has done its part. What I am concerned about is the general security architecture around the whole process, where there is intimidation, uncalled for intimidation, people trying to throw fears, but we're confronting that. We will be going to Zimbabwe to campaign in the country. Whatever it takes, I am going to be standing and campaigning in my country.
I would argue that when you were part of President Mugabe's cabinet, this is exactly the tricks that were applied to kind of silence the opposition.
And
what has changed?
These are some of the things, in hindsight, we must correct. We can't continue in this direction. It just doesn't work. We need to restore the freedoms of our people. We can't shoot people in the streets, like what happened in August. You bring down 18 people and you simply say nothing has happened. That kind of behavior is unacceptable. What does it mean? It has affected Zimbabwe's standing in the international community. We want to restore our economy. When we are also acknowledging that a lot has happened between us, a lot happened in the past, we must reconcile our people, we must reconcile our country, and focus on the core issues. Our people are suffering. We can't continue this trajectory where there is a binary, there is toxicity, there is hatred. Zimbabweans cannot have hatred as a currency. It is not working. Look at our currency. It's collapsing on a daily basis. It means we require to restore our own economy. We've got to stabilize our own politics. We've got to be people who have one accord. We can't continue engaging the world from a different perspective, different voices, multiple voices, are destroying our nation.
When I spoke to the Minister of Information a while ago, she told me that some of you don't want to go to Zim because you have cases to answer. Are you confident you'll be able to go back in Zimbabwe and campaign? Or are you going to use a megaphone?
This is the kind of intimidation. If anything, Zimbabwe is a crime zone. When some of us were shot at, has anybody investigated what happened? Now she comes here, tries to appear like she's a saint. No, she just came, I think she just didn't have something to do, and has embarrassed herself. We want to be serious about restoring Zimbabwe. We realize it's critical that we reconcile, reconnect with our society, and bring about a new Zimbabwe. As politicians, our haggling, our fights are not helping the ultimate objective of a better country. We now must bring to an end fear, intimidation, so that Zimbabweans can become a people who focus on the core responsibility of developing our economy.
Your key manifesto points. Can you take us through your key manifesto points?
Firstly, we must reform our country. We must reform our institutions. We must ensure that our institutions serve everybody. Renewal. Zimbabwe's leadership must be renewed. If you look at the civil service, you look in politics, it's the same characters who have been in there since 1980. It's time. We also brought in new faces. We also want to ensure that the political system that we've been using is changed. We want to bring about a broad base of people, form a government of national unity, bring the skilled people who can make a difference to our country. I look at some of the skills we had in the GNU, Tendai Biti, Washman Ngube, people who have served in government before, Dr. Mokoena and many others. These are people we want to bring into this government so that we can all together work on renewing our economy.
To have a government of national unity, parties must agree. There must be a kind of, in Afrikaans, toenadering, coming together. Are Zimbabweans ready for such a move, particularly the governing party, ZANU-PF?
Well, I'm not talking about ZANU-PF. I'm standing as an independent candidate.
But you have to include
those
who are in the ZANU-PF because currently they're in government.
Let the people of Zimbabwe now make a choice. We've had this crisis for a long time. There are so many candidates who are going to be standing for the local elections, who are going to be standing for parliament, and those of us who are standing for the presidency. So there is a three-tier system. Now, I am imploring Zimbabweans to make the best choices. We want people who are prepared to make a contribution to the revival of our economy. As our voters go to cast their votes, they must look at the characters. These are the people who are going to draw leadership from all the political parties. Once we have assumed the reins of the country as president, I shall proceed to set up a cabinet composed of all the various elements from the various political parties, including the independents who are standing. Because this is the thing we must do to bring about an end to the toxicity in our society. We want to relive the moments we had in 2009, which were a lot better than what we're going through today.
When I spoke to Professor Moyo, your former colleague in cabinet, Jonathan Moyo, he told me that the opposition is weak. Do you agree?
Well, that's his view, and I'm sure that's what he was looking at that point in time. And at that point in time, I'm sure I had not made my announcement that I'm coming in.
Going forward, there are lots of issues in Zimbabwe. Let's talk about the Patriotic Bill. Some say it's not a bill, it's not an act. Of course, the president still has to sign and ratify. But that clause, so controversial. What's your view? He is saying, Professor Moyo, the criticism are unfounded.
That's why what is critical, Sophie, is to restore our people's relations. We have to reconcile Zimbabweans. We have a country where there is hatred. We have deep-seated grievances against each other. And it's essential that now we proceed to look at things that are much more important. Now, if you come up with a patriotic bill which seeks to gag people from talking, what freedoms are you talking about? I don't subscribe to that.
Government is saying it's because people are mobilizing outside the country, working with foreign forces.
There
Do you
are more
agree?
important issues to deal with. Let's amend the Mines and Minerals Act to give our people a greater play in their resources. Let's look at the Banking Act to ensure that our people can have access to resources. There are other areas that surely, if we focus on, we don't have to waste time talking about the Patriotic Bill. How do you legislate for people to speak in your favor every time? I know, yes, that we've had cases which has brought us to where we are, the sanctions. Colleagues had to go outside the country because at times we failed to manage our own internal differences.
But at that time, you defended the then government when they were critical of people who were campaigning for targeted sanctions.
Of course, sanctions are unacceptable. Let's put it very clearly. I don't accept sanctions because they bring greater suffering to our people, and this is what has happened in Zimbabwe. But what we are saying is, what is the solution? Zimbabweans are the key to finding our own solutions. We've allowed the world to become involved in our issues because of our inability to contain our differences and resolve our questions as Zimbabweans.
The political climate ahead of elections, some political parties were saying that there are challenges. You have a member of parliament, Job Sikala, in prison ahead of elections. What is your view?
Unacceptable. Unacceptable. That is what we have to stop. Why I've joined this race is this kind of behavior is unacceptable. Mnangagwa can't continue running the country like he's running a
But the minister tells me the judiciary is independent and therefore they can't intervene.
But you know what has been happening behind the scenes. We know what kind of a person Mnangagwa is, and that's why we even opposed him to become president within the party. These are the traits we had a problem with. These are the things that concern us, and this is what we must stand up against. We can't allow him to run the country like a private company. This is our country together. Zimbabwe belongs to all of us. Look at what he's doing even in the economy. The whole empowerment schemes have been scrubbed. What has he replaced them with? Bribe taking, individuals making more money. Look at the mineral wealth our country has, and look at the state of our hospitals. Look at the state of our roads. Look at the state of our education institutions. Look at what the civil servants are getting. People have no water. We've run for almost 2-3 years without power. Yet the country is saying we're generating a lot of income.
But they are saying it's a legacy of President Mugabe's administration.
Mugabe was never in cabinet by himself. Mnangagwa says he was with Mugabe for 55 years. I'm for 53 years. So who was longer with the other? I am 53 years old. He says he worked with Mugabe for 55 years. Who's more culpable, me or Emerson?
Your message to Zimbabweans ahead of elections, not only Zimbabweans, you have many Zimbabweans in South Africa. Their story is pathetic.
I agree.
I had the minister bragging that they are so qualified. But look at the type of work they are doing in South Africa, which speaks to you cannot be proud of Zimbabweans struggling in a foreign land when they have a country that is so rich with mineral wealth, but only politicians are benefiting.
The exodus has begun. We're going to go back home. Every Zimbabwean must come back home and build the country. And we must do that in unity. Unity, peace, and development. We need to be in our country to make a difference. The embarrassment that we've gone through is unacceptable. It's a shame. We find our people in almost nearly each country in the region of SADC. Is this what Zimbabwe is all about? No. I think the leadership failure has to come to an end. We need to stop this kind of behavior and allow our people an opportunity to succeed in their country. Children are being born in South Africa, and some don't have papers. It's despicable for us to say we are leaders and we allow people to go through this kind of pain.
When I watched the news and information coming from Zimbabwe, it looks like the not electoral court in South Africa, it is the electoral court, but the nomination court, there are candidates who are complaining.
There has been kind of problems in terms of the registration exercise and the amounts of money, obviously, $20,000, members of parliament. You could see that things are not organized. Now, if somebody
So will
can't...
the elections be free and fair? Is it fair?
Yeah, of course, these are challenges. But this is the only way we can reform our country. And my plea is to fellow countrymen. They have just one day, 23rd of August, to change this country. If we don't do something on the 23rd of August, we are going to again have 5 years of pain, if not worse pain. So we've got to do whatever we can. Mobilize the people. 23rd of August, people must decide, is this a yes or a no? They must make a choice, get a leader who will now start implementing, bringing back the people together, reconciling our differences, renewing the leadership, rebuilding Zimbabwe and reviving the economy. If we continue this trajectory of Mnangagwa, we are going to be in serious trouble.
Your message to the international community
the international
ahead
community,
of elections?
We are here. We are going to ensure that the elections are run in a manner that will not allow us to dispute the result. We want to be able to congratulate whoever wins and work towards rebuilding our country. And we want to work with the international community, want to uplift the sanctions. We want to ensure that Zimbabwe returns back to the fold as a responsible member of the community, and we must uphold our own constitution. We must respect our agreements with the world so that Zimbabwe can be a respected member of the international community.